In the mountains of the Caucasus between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, there is a valley called Dagestan. A mountain landscape shows the dramatic peaks and deep valleys of the Caucasus Mountains with small stone villages visible on steep hillsides. Dagestan is approximately the size of Ireland. It contains approximately 30 distinct languages, not dialects. Languages, each as different from the others as English is from Russian. Some of these languages have sounds that exist in no other language on Earth. Clicks, ejectives, lateral fricatives, ancient phonetics that once existed across a much wider area but survived only in these mountain valleys where the geography of isolation kept them frozen in time. Alexander the Great, who conquered much of the known world, called the Caucasus Mountains the Mountain of Languages. That was in 334 BC. The description is still accurate 2,300 years later. Now look at the map of languages spoken in the flat steppe to the north of the Caucasus. The steppe stretches vast and flat from the Caspian Sea to the borders of Europe. Across this enormous flat landscape, people speak relatively few languages that have spread widely precisely because the flat open geography allowed contact between communities. Armies moved across the steppe, merchants traded across it, nomadic peoples moved back and forth, languages mixed, simplified, and spread. In the mountains, none of this happened. The Caucasus peaks acted as walls between communities separated by just a few kilometers, but isolated by a day or more of dangerous mountain terrain. Over thousands of years, those walls preserved languages that had been evolving in isolation since before recorded history. The same community, the same valley, the same language, unchanged for millennia. Today, Where on Earth reveals the geography of mountain languages, why altitude preserves what lowland contact destroys, the specific mountain ranges on Earth where this phenomenon is most extraordinary, and what is about to be lost as roads and satellites finally penetrate the last isolated valleys. Subscribe to Where on Earth and hit the bell. Now let us understand the geographic mechanism that makes mountains into language vaults. Languages change when people come into contact with other languages. A lowland trading route shows merchants from different communities meeting and communicating in a shared language. Contact causes borrowing. Communities adopt words from their neighbors. Grammatical structures simplify when speakers need to communicate with people who learned the language as adults. Complex sounds that take years of childhood exposure to produce correctly get dropped because they make communication harder with outsiders. Over centuries of contact, a language that was once complex and unique becomes simpler and more similar to its neighbors. This is the process that happened to every language spoken by major settled civilizations. Latin absorbed from Greek. English borrowed from French, Norman, Viking, and Latin. Modern Mandarin is simpler in its grammar than ancient Chinese because centuries of imperial administration required a simplified standard that non-native speakers could learn. Contact simplifies. Isolation preserves. In mountains, contact is physically prevented by the terrain. A mountain geography shows dramatic peaks with deep valleys separated by high ridges with snow and steep slopes. Steep slopes make travel slow. High passes close in winter. Rivers flowing through deep gorges create impassable barriers between adjacent valleys. The community in one valley has almost no contact with the community in the next valley, even if they are only 10 kilometers apart as the crow flies, because those 10 kilometers include a 2,000-meter ridge and a snow-blocked pass and a river crossing with no bridge. In practice, those communities are completely isolated from each other for months of every year, and over thousands of years of isolation, each valley's language develops independently. The sound system changes in one valley in ways that never happen in the next valley. Grammatical structures become more complex in one community because there is no external pressure to simplify them for outsiders. Vocabulary diverges completely. After enough thousands of years of isolation, the two communities can no longer understand each other at all. They are speaking different languages, created not by deliberate choice, but by the geography of mountains. Now let us go to the most linguistically extraordinary mountain range on Earth. The Caucasus Mountains run approximately 1,200 kilometers from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea. They form the border between Russia to the north and Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan to the south. The Caucasus contains three language families that are found nowhere else on Earth: the Northwest Caucasian languages, the Northeast Caucasian languages, and the Kartvelian languages, of which Georgian is the most widely spoken. None of these language families are related to each other. None are related to the Indo-European family that includes English, French, German, Spanish, Russian, and most other European languages. None are related to the Semitic family of Arabic and Hebrew. They are completely unique. They have been developing in the mountains of the Caucasus for so long in such isolation that they share no relationship with any other languages anywhere else on Earth. The Northeast Caucasian languages in particular contain some of the most complex sound systems ever documented. Ubykh, a language spoken in the Western Caucasus before its last native speaker died in 1992, had approximately 84 consonant sounds. English has approximately 24 consonant sounds. Ubykh had 84, including sounds produced by simultaneously engaging the back of the throat and releasing air in ways that require years of childhood training to produce correctly. These sounds were not biological accidents. They evolved in an isolated mountain community over thousands of years where the geography prevented any contact that would have pressured them to simplify. The last native speaker of Ubykh was a man named Tevfik Esinç, who died in Turkey in 1992. He was interviewed extensively by linguists in his final years. He demonstrated sounds that no other living human on Earth could produce with native fluency. When Tevfik Esinç died, those sounds died with him. 84 consonants. Developed over thousands of years in the geography of Caucasus isolation. Gone in one death. Now let us go to the Himalayas. The Himalayan mountain range stretches 2,400 kilometers across South Asia from Pakistan to Burma. It contains between 150 and 200 distinct languages belonging to multiple language families. Many of these languages are spoken by populations of fewer than 10,000 people, some by populations of fewer than 1,000. A Himalayan village sits in a high-altitude valley surrounded by peaks with traditional stone buildings and terraced fields. Many Himalayan languages have no writing system. They have never been written down. They exist only in spoken form, in the memories of the communities that speak them, and in the recorded memories of the elders. The Himalayan Geographic Project, which has been documenting villages in the Upper Kanawar and Kulu belt of the Indian Himalayas for 4 years, reports that several elders they recorded in 2020 have since died. Their voices exist now only in recordings. The languages they spoke are still alive, but the number of fully fluent speakers is declining. Children learn Hindi in school. Young people move to cities where Hindi and English open economic opportunities that their ancestral mountain language cannot. The geography that isolated these communities for thousands of years is no longer enough to protect the languages they created, because now the isolation is being eroded. Not by armies, not by conquest, by roads, by schools, by smartphones. Now let us go to the most extraordinary concentration of linguistic diversity on Earth. Papua New Guinea is an island in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. An aerial view of Papua New Guinea shows its dense tropical forest covering steep highlands with small villages visible in mountain clearings. Papua New Guinea has a population of approximately 10 million people. It has approximately 850 distinct languages. 850. That is approximately 12% of all languages currently spoken anywhere on Earth. In one island, with 10 million people. For comparison, Europe has approximately 200 languages among a population of 750 million. Papua New Guinea has 4 times as many languages among less than 2% of Europe's population. The reason is entirely geographic. Papua New Guinea's interior is dominated by some of the most rugged mountain terrain on Earth. Densely forested highlands cut by deep valleys and rushing rivers. Communities separated from each other by terrain so difficult that contact between neighboring valleys was rare and dangerous. For thousands of years, these communities developed in complete isolation, each valley a separate linguistic world. When European colonizers first explored the Papua New Guinea highlands in the 1930s, they encountered communities that had no knowledge of the existence of outsiders. Not just outsiders from Europe, outsiders in general. Some communities had spent so long in geographic isolation that they believed they were the only humans in the world. The geography of the Papua New Guinea highlands had been so complete in its isolation for so long that entire human civilizations had developed with no contact with the rest of humanity, and each of those isolated civilizations had its own language, its own culture, its own understanding of the world, created entirely by the geography of mountain isolation. Now let us go to the Americas. The highlands of Oaxaca in southern Mexico and Guatemala in Central America are among the most linguistically diverse regions in the Western Hemisphere. The Sierra Madre Mountains divide Oaxaca into dozens of isolated valleys, each surrounded by steep ridges. The state of Oaxaca in Mexico alone contains more than 15 language families, in an area smaller than the United Kingdom. The Zapotec languages of Oaxaca's mountain valleys are so diverse among themselves that the Zapotec spoken in one valley is often incomprehensible to Zapotec speakers from a neighboring valley. They share a common ancestry, but 2,000 years of mountain isolation has made them mutually unintelligible. They are in some respects different languages that happen to share the same name. The mountain geography of Oaxaca created the same fragmentation as the Caucasus and Papua New Guinea. Every isolated valley developed independently. Every valley now speaks differently. Now let us understand the concept of the linguistic refugium. Linguists use this term borrowed from biology to describe places where rare or ancient features survive precisely because geography has protected them from the forces that would otherwise eliminate them. In biology, a refugium is a place where species survive an ice age or other catastrophe because the specific geography of the area provides shelter. After the catastrophe, the species in the refugium can repopulate the surrounding areas. In linguistics, a mountain valley is a refugium for ancient sounds and grammatical structures. When an empire conquers a lowland region, it imposes its language across the flat territory it controls. Latin spread across the flat Roman provinces. Arabic spread across the flat Arabian Peninsula and North Africa. But mountains stop empires. The Romans never fully conquered the Caucasus. The Arabs never penetrated the deepest Himalayan valleys. The Aztecs controlled the lowlands of Mexico, but not the mountain valleys of Oaxaca, where Zapotec communities maintained their languages and cultures. Inside the mountain refugia, the ancient languages continued, while outside in the conquered lowlands, they were replaced. And when the empire eventually fell, the lowland languages that replaced the ancient ones were there to stay. But in the mountains, the ancient voices had survived the empire and continued beyond it. Now let us understand the modern threat that is finally reaching these refugia. For thousands of years, the geographic barrier of mountains was sufficient to protect the languages inside them. No road, no army, no merchant could easily penetrate the most isolated valleys. But in 2026, three forces are doing what no empire ever managed. The first is roads. Modern road construction technology can cut through mountain terrain that was previously impassable, blasting through rock with explosives, building bridges over gorges, cutting switchback roads up slopes that humans could previously only reach on foot. Once a road connects an isolated mountain community to the outside world, the isolation ends. Children can attend schools in lowland towns. Young people can commute to jobs in cities. Goods from outside can arrive cheaply. And the dominant language of the road, whether Hindi in the Himalayas or Spanish in the Andes or Indonesian in Papua New Guinea, follows the road into the valley. The second force is satellite internet. Satellite internet services are reaching the world's most remote mountain valleys for the first time. A young person in a previously isolated Himalayan village can now watch YouTube videos in Hindi. They can communicate with the wider world in a language that their isolated valley never used. They can access education, economic opportunities, and entertainment exclusively available in the dominant lowland language. The geographic isolation that protected the mountain language for thousands of years cannot compete with the economic incentives of connectivity. The third force is education. Mountain communities across the world are being integrated into national education systems that teach in national languages. Tibetan children in China learn Mandarin. Himalayan children in India learn Hindi. Papua New Guinea children learn English. Children who grow up bilingual, their ancestral mountain language and the national language increasingly choose to use the national language with their own children because it opens more economic doors, because it connects to the wider world, because the mountain language that preserved their ancestors' voices for thousands of years does not get them a job in the city. The UN declared 2022 to 2032 the International Decade of Indigenous Languages. Linguists around the world are racing to document what remains. Recording elders, creating written forms for languages that have never been written down, building digital archives of phonetics that no writing system can capture, using AI analysis to extract grammatical patterns from recordings of speakers who are in some cases the last fluent users of their language. The Endangered Languages Project, supported by Google, has recorded dozens of Himalayan languages. But documentation is not the same as survival. A recording of a language is a museum exhibit. It is not a living language. And a language that is not spoken to children every day will not be spoken to their children. The race to preserve these mountain languages is ultimately a race against time, against the age of the elders who carry them, against the roads and satellites and schools that are opening these previously closed valleys. The mountains preserved these voices for thousands of years. They froze sounds that had vanished everywhere else on Earth. They created the most extraordinary concentrations of linguistic diversity that have ever existed. The Caucasus with its 50 languages that belong to nowhere else. The Himalayas with their 200 languages, many never written down. Papua New Guinea, with its 850 languages representing 12% of all human language on Earth. Oaxaca, where the same language family has split into voices so different they can no longer understand each other. All of this created by mountains. By the simple geographic fact that steep slopes and high passes and deep gorges prevented contact between communities that were physically close but effectively worlds apart. The geography that protected these languages for millennia is being overcome for the first time in human history. Not by conquest, by connectivity, and the voices that survived Alexander the Great and Roman expansion and the Mongol conquests and the colonial empires may not survive the internet. Subscribe to Where on Earth for weekly geography that reveals the world before it disappears. Hit the bell and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Because the world sounds very different when you understand the geography of the voices we are about to lose.